It's Friday the 13th, 2024. It's just around 16 minutes to 2, 81 degrees on an excellent Friday afternoon. Not too hot, not too cold. Back home in my teenage days, I would have looked forward to watching some horror movies on Friday the 13th. But as you get older, these things just fade away. So let's get right to it. Cathy, former AFC minister and wife of the AFC boss, is taken by Jagdeo to court in connection with him addressing her as a lowlife. That information from the courts is already out in the domain there. And what has come out so far in that court case is that at some point in time, Nigel did call his wife apparently a lowlife because Jagdeo's lawyer Sanjay Dattadin got that out of her in terms of his cross-examination. But on further checking, apparently Nigel is saying that it was just a joke he was making. It was nothing serious, and it was just a simple joke. So I guess Jagdeo's lawyer Dattadin is trying to see if he can make some mileage off of that. But if the man says that it's a joke, he was trying to play on his wife, well, I would want to believe him. Anyhow, Jagdeo now is saying that it is in the context. Of course, he's saying this through his lawyer, Sanjay Dattadin. It was nothing personal against her, calling her a low life. It's her attitude as a minister of telecommunication. And what he's saying is that she had this company, Video Amiga, and she claimed that she's no longer part of the company. But when they checked up to 2018, they saw that she was sending checks in her own name, giving that company money for work done. And it was in that context he was addressing her as a lowlife. Jagdeo was saying it was nothing personal, it's just that her behavior as minister, her attitude. So, that is what it came down to at that point. I guess we just have to follow that case and see where it leads to. Also, I saw a 11-year-old girl give birth to a baby at a Georgian hospital. I understand from the newspapers that the Ministry of Human Services, in conjunction with the police, apparently they have arrested the male who was involved. The girl is from Region 9. And I guess the serious offense, she's only 11 years old. Because I'm even seeing in some other parts of the newspapers, I'm not going to call it newspapers, that attempts were made to cover it up, and her relatives did not want to reveal information to the police. And then you're even seeing that people are saying that it's a common occurrence in those areas. So we'll see where that goes. I also noted a notice from the embassy, the United States Embassy in Guyana, asking United States citizens to register to be able to vote in American elections. They ask them to register online so as to get information in terms of how they could get the absentee ballot so as to vote in November the 4th elections. So I have some comments where some people are saying that, you guys are living in the United States and you're focusing on stuff going on in Guyana. Why don't you give us some information about what's going on in America, or in this case, New York? I could remember Faikeson saying that a lot of us are trying to give commentary about Guyana, and we're not giving commentary in the country where we are living. So I decided to change up that format, and I'm going to be giving you some direct information and commentary about what's going on here in Queens. Normally, when I go to the key food supermarket, I would pick up these papers. Sometimes they're free, especially for senior citizens like me. I picked up 4 yesterday. This is a Queens Chronicle. This paper was printed Thursday, September the 12th. That is a Queens Chronicle that I read when you say I'm on my day off. And I'm going to give you some direct information about what is happening here. The front page, Tangle Web. There it has a picture. FBI raids the homes of the mayor's top aides and the police commissioner. Several of Mayor Adams, that's Eric Adams, who was the mayor for New York, their homes were raided by the FBI. NYPD Commissioner Edward Caban, what I understand as of last night, he has resigned. They were mounting calls for him to resign, and apparently he has finally decided to resign. The mayor has already appointed an interim NYPD Commissioner. Schools Chancellor David Banks, Deputy Mayor for Public Safety Phil Banks, Senior Advisor and former cop Tim Pearson, and First Deputy Mayor Sheena Wright had their homes raided and their phones seized by the FBI last Wednesday. The actions were taken as part of a corruption inquiries into the nightlife and consulting industries and alleged government connections. The FBI is not a joke. The FBI, unlike some third world countries, they're not compromised. They get certain information and they go in there and get the job done. Following FBI raids, this is the second page, as questions engulf top Adam aides and others who are urging Caban to quit. Well, of course, that's the NYPD commissioner. He has already quit the job. So let's go more into this Queens Chronicle. There are quite a number of advertisements here. There's an article that I was looking at. Flood mitigation for the 21st century. New York City spends $1.2 billion on drones, sensor, cloud bursts, and remote technology. Since taking office, Mayor Adams' administration has spent about $1.2 billion in flood mitigation efforts. The city announced on Monday, just days after the 3rd anniversary of Hurricane Ida, which had claimed the lives of 30 New Yorkers, 11 of whom were from Queens, including a mother and a son from Hollis. In early August, for the first time ever since city public safety agents deployed drones, they deployed these drones to support with public messaging and warnings, ensuring that critical information reached those who needed it most. And those drones will make announcements in English and Spanish, especially for emergency management. The drone mission reflects our commitment to exploring innovative technologies that can enhance our emergency response. So says one of the top officials. Drones have added benefit of geographical specificity. During the early August flood events, the drones were sent to flood-prone neighborhoods to announce recorded warnings in English and Spanish. There's also where the city broke ground last month on a cloudboard project which will use porous pavements to prevent flooding. So obviously if the pavements are porous, it means that the water, whatever water lands there, is going to drain off below the pavement into some reservoir. And that's a new technology that they're exploring. They also have the MTA had a career information fair last Saturday. I did some research. MTA bus operators are earning between $26 and $45 an hour. An MTA bus driver can make as much as $100,000 per year. and that is above the average daily hourly earnings in America. I should say New York. There's a photograph of this American Airlines mechanic who imported drugs via JFK. The drugs were valued up to $320,000, and that's cocaine. Cocaine smuggler gets 9 years in a joint. An American Airlines mechanic was sentenced last Friday to 9 years in prison for trafficking cocaine through JFK Airport, according to the United States Attorney Office. Paul Belliosi of Smithtown, Long Island, was originally facing up to 20 years in prison after being convicted in May 2023 for conspiring to import, and importing cocaine, said prosecutors. The drugs were hidden inside the electronics compartment on the underside of the cockpit, and the drugs had a street value estimated at $320,000 United States dollars. Let's move on. There's these high-rising apartments for rental. The Monarch Housing Lottery. This here is in Queens. Those rents start for one bedroom, starts from $1,596 a month, and those are for incomes ranging between $58,000 to $111,000. Now these are like condos, and they have state-of-the-art facilities. The next rent, $1,904 for incomes ranging between $69,000 to $134,000, and from that alone, you can see the people earning these monies. Those are high-end apartments. $3,140 for people making $107,000 to $181,000, and then the next tier, $3,753 per month rental. These are apartments. In fact, there are 182 apartments available, and this comes under the Monarch Housing Lottery. There's a lottery that is being run for people to who can afford to pay these rents, to live in these high-end apartments that are fully furnished and have some of the latest equipments. So this part here, there is the editorial. Eric Adams must fire the FBI's targets. In City Hall, they're saying that he's surrounding himself with too much of dead weight, and you should fire them. Someone is writing about fighting prostate cancer. Let's move on. Paper has a lot of advertisements. Oh, this is an interesting article. Kamala Harris is the talk of a town in South Richmond Hill. Here's a photograph of Liberty Avenue and 123rd Street in Little Guyana. Below, all in Little Guyana. And they have 3 people that they interviewed here in Little Guyana. Let me see if I can pick out something of this article. It's a very long article. I'm just going to pick out some stuff here. These days, visitors to South Richmond Hill roti shops pick up more than just curries and doubles. They're also bound to hear spirited conversations about Democratic presidential nominee and Vice President Kamala Harris. Uncles gathering in restaurants on Liberty Avenue talk proudly about the campaign of a candidate whose mother was Indian and father was Jamaican. Aunties active on WhatsApp and Facebook groups circulate posts about a woman who could become the country's first female president. All the while, young Indo-Caribbean organizers are working to mobilize members of the politically divided community ahead of November elections. Some know this corner of South Queens as Little Guyana, while others call it Little Punjab. Here, descendants of Indian indentured servants brought to the British West Indies to fill post-abolition labor shortages make up one of the largest Indo-Caribbean communities in the United States. They coexist with a large Sikh population along with other South Asians from elsewhere in India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. And on a visit last week, the word Kamala, a common name among Hindu families that refers to the lotus flower in Sanskrit, but often pronounced incorrectly by many American voters and Harris opponents, seem to be on every tongue. I know she's gonna win because I know a lot of people who are talking about her, says 68-year-old George Hiran, a retired army metal worker, and there's a photograph of George, who likes to people watch and chat up neighbors while sitting outside a shoe store at Liberty Avenue. Everywhere you go, you hear everyone talking about her, as his friend Narayan, a 62-year-old retired construction worker who declined to provide his last name because he's undocumented. I wish I could vote, he said. The vibe in Richmond Hill is notably shift from the 2022 and congressional election. While the neighborhood voted solidly blue then, Republican candidate Lee Zeldin gained about 20% points compared to GOP standard bearer in 2018. Mohammed Q. Amin, executive director of the Caribbean Equality Project, a local social justice and human rights organization, and himself a Richmond resident of Indo-Caribbean descent, said he's seen how energized residents here and in other Caribbean neighborhoods have been since Harris took over the top of the ticket. Before President Joe Biden bowed out of the race, Amin said perhaps 5 to 7 people would register to vote at his organization's outreach events, numbers that matched previous presidential elections. But at a drive in August, nearly 5 times as many people signed up, he said. Many green card holders have come to us and said, I wish I could vote in this coming election. I've applied for my citizenship, but I don't know if I'm going to get my interview in time to register. But I will come back and find you when I'm qualified, Amin said. That's the type of initiative that people are taking. Amita Kilwan Narayan, a 35-year-old Indo-Caribbean organizer and founder of the progressive group South Queens Women's March, said she noticed an increased interest in democratic politics among the neighborhood's independent and swing voters. And I actually do think a big part of that, at least from my community, is because she's from Caribbean and Indian descent, said Narayan, addressing that she was speaking for herself and not the organization. Among the Kamala supporters were a group of 5 Indo-Guyanese friends spending their morning in a Burger King on Liberty Avenue. All were eager to offer their opinions, talking over one another when asked about Harris. Roy K., a 70-year-old immigrant from Guyana and Richmond Hill resident of 30 years, says he's an independent voter who backs members of both parties and doesn't usually tune in for political conventions. But he watched Harris speak in Chicago, and her speech, he said, has helped change the minds of some of his friends and neighbors who usually back Republicans. We are just like Kamala Harris, he said, living with pride. Our forefathers and grandparents from India, the same state she came from, Tamil Nadu. While Harris' candidacy has excited some of Richmond Hill voters, political divisions in the neighborhood do exist. The fact is not lost on Kilwan Narayan, who noted that many among the diaspora are also Muslim, and some of them have so far remained uncommitted to Harris, along with other Democrats over her position on the war in Gaza. And on the other side of the political spectrum, she added, a number of community members have shifted to the right in recent years. Since the Trump election, for whatever reason, there has been a red wave among the community. Narayan said, I think a part of that is a lot of our folks, they have worked really hard to grow their American dreams in all the ways they have played out for them. Many Indo-Caribbean immigrants have become homeowners since rising in New York City, she said, with some now building mansions in South Ozone Park where they were previously ranch houses. This gradual accumulation of wealth combined with internalized anti-blackness from the colonial experience, she argued, have made some Indo-Caribbean voters receptive to conservative talking points about crime, immigration, and economy, and even the attacks from Donald Trump on Harris's mixed-race identity. Well, people are paying a lot of attention because of his sheer identity, said Shavana Jorawa, co-founder of the Progressive Indo-Caribbean and Anti-Violence and Gender Justice Organization. I also think that Democrats have not done enough to address the economic issues that working families are facing, she noted, speaking on behalf of herself and another group. Some local Indo-Caribbean voters told the city that they have remained undecided about a race, even as they feel the excitement of having someone who looks like them as Democratic presidential candidate. Pam Mohabir, a 62-year-old Burger King employee and undecided voter, told the city during her break that she is yet convinced that the Harris administration will be able to address her concerns about inflation. I'd be glad to know if a lady can rule the country, but then I don't know. Things got to go right because there's too much expensive stuff in the country, Mahavir said. Nowadays in the store, you got your $100, you don't get much. With politicians, she concluded, sometimes they try, they're going to do this, they're going to do that, but they ain't doing one thing. So this is a very long article written by Haldi Chu, and this Haldi Chu is writing under the name The City. So this is where I'm going to bring this video to a close. I'll be playing the video of Bar Jagdeo, what he said concerning himself and Cathy Huge. Have a wonderful Friday evening.
We come to a few things today. I was actually shocked that I read a newspaper story, I think it's kind of standard. And I was shocked because I didn't realize that Nigel Hughes actually referred to his wife as a lowlife. So the headline says, Cathy Hughes tells court her husband referred to her as a lowlife on Facebook. So this is, I saw Nigel Hughes subsequently attempting through a set of frantic posts, several of them, try to explain the context in which he did that. Now, this is the person who defined low life as all sorts of things in the ethnic sense, because I criticize her because she's of African descent, that it has connotations of a loose woman and all sorts of things. He put those definitions in the lawsuit that he filed against me. And to refer to your wife, even jocularly, in the manner, since you defined it as such. My definition was different. I felt she was dishonorable because she lied on me. So he said, oh, there was a context to this all. He was doing it jokingly. But having defined it thus, even if you jocularly refer to your wife in that manner, it's demeaning. Now, he then posted again. So what happened in cross-examination, and most of you are aware of what I'm talking about. So at a press conference that I had at the office of the president, I said that Cathy Hughes went to Linden in the middle of the tense situation with Venezuela. And she spoke at a public gathering, and she said that I implied that I, as a former president, undermined Guyana's position on the border, and that I had offered a channel to Venezuela. She referred to me as being evil and all sorts of things in that meeting. So at the press conference, I said, even if you want to criticize me on an issue here, we're fighting now for our country together. The leader of the opposition, we had full solidarity on the not border issue. You should not distort a position that I took for partisan interests when the national interest is at stake. So I was critical of that, and then I also said, this is rich coming from someone who in her own ministry was giving contracts to her own company and signing off on payments to her company while signing checks on behalf of the company. That this was low-life behavior. So they did two things. They wrote the ERC saying that I made disparaging ethnic statements about her, which is false. You should look at the whole press conference. And then they filed a lawsuit against me. The ERC considered the matter, and they found no merit in it. Absolutely no merit in it. So Cathy Hughes, on the cross-examination, admitted that I never referred to her gender or her ethnicity at the press conference. Never did. Secondly, she admitted that the question of the offer of the channel was not done by me. It was done long before I became president. So she admitted to that too. And she also said her husband also referred to her as low-life. These are all under cross-examination. So as I said before, Nigel Hughes came on and he was explaining the context with which he, the context in which he called her a low-life. But then he reposted the same clip that they could not put in the defense. He reposted the clip of me talking when we had just come out of government about this issue on the channel. And so let me read the Chronicle quotation. Now, this was Chronicle, October 24, 2015. This was APNU in government. And they quoted what I said. So, well, we gather that there are several other options available to the Secretary General. That is the UN Secretary General. I don't want to say much about the options, but let me say I'm in a very difficult position to comment on this issue basically. But there were other options that involved a negotiated settlement. Negotiated settlement which did not see any land concession, that the 1899 award would remain intact. But there was one view that you could probably, on the maritime area, give Venezuela a channel to the sea. So I said there was one view. Not that I'm offering the Venezuela, but there was one view that you could probably, in the maritime area, give Venezuela a channel out to the sea. So I was commenting on what took place before me as president, because they had actually offered that under APNU. And it's in the pleadings before the UN, the ICJ. Venezuela inserted that. We know who made that offer now, and it was done when APNU was in government. I didn't say I'm giving a channel. I said there was one view. So guess what the video that Nigel Hughes is circulating now starts with? They take out, but there was one view. And it starts with, you could probably, in the maritime area, give Venezuela a channel out to the sea. That's where they clip it, and that's what they're posted now. So he is upset that his comment about his wife being a low-life is taken out of context. But he, in the same breath, the same post, edits the video to start it at a point where it made I look like I was suggesting this. When in their own Chronicle at that time, this was what was quoted. This was what my quotation was. So it's the dishonesty of people like Nigel Hughes, totally dishonest. He could joke about his wife being a low-life and make it look like it's ethnic. She's a politician. She was criticizing me. I was responding to her behavior. That was low-life behavior. And it's dishonorable behavior. And And if you think about low life, if you look at this movie, Heart of Stone, I was watching an action movie recently, and you know, there's the charter there, and the head of the charter was referring to the childhood of this Alia Bhatt, who is an Indian movie star, who was in the movie, and she said that basically that she had a tough life, tough childhood, that she grew up with low lives. I don't think they were referring to anybody, ethnicity, etc. The standard usage. But I'm in court facing that, but now I'm glad, in fact, that they actually sued me, because they're very thin-skinned. She could, as a politician, call people satire girl, and you know the history of satire girl, call them all sorts of things, premonition, all the time. But I didn't refer to her ethnicity. I said she was a lowlife because she lied on me to the people in Linden, knowing that and she admitted in court that she knew that the offer was made before. So this is something that happens all the time. And then he, in his own defense, goes out to say, oh, there was a context. However, he lies again on me by clipping the TikTok, I think, by editing it to leave out the most critical part, to say there was a view, not that I offered, there was a view that this could be done.